Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Caleb here. So something interesting just happened, and that's that over $590 million worth of XRP quietly moved off of major exchanges in the last 24 hours. While at the same time, RLUSD just picked up direct trading pairs with tokenized gold. So now on the surface, those might seem kind of like separate stories, but if you zoom out, they actually point to the same thing. And that same thing is liquidity is shifting, and the XRP ecosystem is getting stronger underneath the price. So like today, we're going to break down some of these stories in crypto with a clear focus on XRP and Ripple. We're going to get into it, but before we do, just know I'm not a financial advisor. Please do your own financial research into this space. You owe it to yourself to do that. I'm just a guy with opinions, and I like to share them. So for educational purposes only. Now, let's get into it. All right. If we take a quick look at the market, the total crypto market cap right now, like all of crypto combined, it's around $2.3 trillion. You know, we've got some pressure coming from macro headlines, of course, especially oil and the geopolitical tension that we're seeing in Iran, of course. Now, why that matters is that, well, Bitcoin's actually been pretty steady at its levels right now. It's not running, it's not crashing. And that creates space for assets like XRP to move on fundamentals and not just momentum, right? And that's exactly the environment that we're starting to see. So now where this actually starts to get interesting is that RLUSD just rolled out direct trading pairs with tokenized gold, specifically like a PAXG and XAUT. At first glance, it sounds like just like another listing. Whoop-de-doo, what's the big deal? But actually, what this actually is it's like it connects a dollar-backed stablecoin directly to real-world commodities, right? Without needing to exit the crypto ecosystem, right? So instead of going from, let's say you have a stablecoin and then you go into a fiat, like, you know, traditional money, right? And then from there into gold, right? A three-step process. Well, now you just have stablecoin, RLUSD, and gold. Ta-da! Right? So that's actually a pretty big shift because it makes RLUSD more than just like a parking place for liquidity, right? It turns it into a gateway asset. And here's where it ties back to XRP, right? RLUSD runs on the XRP ledger, right? So every new trading pair, every new use case, every bit of volume, it all feeds back to XRPL activity, right? So this doesn't show up in price immediately, but structurally, that's why I'm invested in this space, is for the fundamentals. It's exactly how ecosystems grow, right? The part that most people miss is like that this is how you slowly build demand for a network, right? By making it useful in ways that don't feel obvious at first, right? So at the same time, this is also happening, okay? We're seeing over $590 million worth of XRP leaving exchanges like Binance, like Coinbase. So this is like a big signal actually, because like it's one of those signals that tend to get overlooked, and it actually matters. So when we see large amounts of crypto leaving exchanges, you know, what does that tell us? Well, these coins aren't being positioned to sell, right? They're being moved into custody, cold wallets, institutional storage, like a long-term hold, right? So what happens is like pretty well the available supply on exchanges goes down, selling pressure decreases, and the market starts to tighten, right? And then now this doesn't guarantee that price is going to go up tomorrow, right? But historically, these are the kind of flows that show up before larger moves, not after, right? Because if you see it, like for instance, on the flip side, you see a bunch of assets like coming onto exchanges. It's like, well, why are they moving all their assets onto these off ramps, right? Because if you think about it, like, yeah, exchanges are an on ramp, and then they're also an off ramp, right? Now, a lot of people that are new to crypto, they may just leave their assets on there, like to hold them. I would suggest not to do that. Like, there's a saying, not your keys, not your crypto. That is a true saying. You're a creditor to these exchanges. You want to get your own cold storage, wallet, in my opinion, and buy it from the actual manufacturer, right? You don't want to get hoodwinked and scanned by like, oh, this one's a little cheaper on Amazon. Don't. Whatever you do not do that. Do not do that. But you should get your assets off of these exchanges, and then, you can then decide where you want to have an off-ramp after, right? But at least you're holding it and you own it. It's yours. And do what you want with it, right? So, I think all of this is starting to paint a clearer picture, right? Because when you connect what we just talked about, RLUSD expanding, the XRPL usage increasing, right? Capital is getting positioned, not exited, right? So if we shift from on-chain activity to real-world impact, because this is sort of really where Ripple is quietly doing something that most projects aren't. And Ripple just shared an update on its $15 million RLUSD initiative with the Action Opportunity Fund. So, okay, the results are actually pretty significant. Let's just break it down. So, $53.6 million in capital was deployed, over 900 loans issued, and more than 1,000 jobs supported or created. So, if you take a step back for a second, right? This is a stablecoin, yes. It's being used to directly support small businesses in the US. It's not speculation. There's not a trading loop. It's actual economic activity, right? So this is where things actually get real, because it shows that blockchain-based liquidity can move faster with fewer intermediaries and still plug into traditional finance, right? And again, this is RLUSD runs on the XRP ledger, right? So this isn't separate from XRP, right? Brad Garlinghouse said that all that Ripple does, XRP is at the center of it, right? So that's exactly the same for their stablecoin, okay? It's a live demonstration of what the infrastructure can actually do. So what most people miss here is that adoptions doesn't start with price. It usually starts with utility. And this is utility, right? So now on the flip side too, we do have some short-term pressure in the market. That's clear, right? Oil prices have been moving higher, and headlines around the Middle East, particularly involving Iran, have created a lot of uncertainty. That's perfectly clear, right? When that happens, capital tends to rotate. Investors pull back from higher risk assets, including crypto, until things actually will start to stabilize, right? And that's why the market dipped a bunch when Trump said, we're going to be at this for another 3 weeks, and if we have to, we'll knock them back to the Stone Ages. Well, that's a lot of pressure. And this kind of pressure is external, right? Of course, it's not coming from within crypto, but it affects crypto, of course. And so, more importantly, it doesn't change the underlying direction of projects, and that these are still building, right? XRP dipped slightly with all the market, right? But compared to many other altcoins or other projects, it's holding structure better, in my opinion, and that will usually tell you something, right? Now this is the next update I'm gonna let you know about. It's easy to ignore, but it's actually one of the most important ones. The XRP ledger just released Ripple version 3.1.2, which includes key stability and security fixes. So there was no flashy headline, no big this is what we're doing, but this is the kind of work that keeps the network running reliably, right? Especially as usage increases. Because, here is the actual reality of the situation, is that if institutions are going to rely on the XRPL for stablecoins, payments, liquidity, the infrastructure, it has to be absolutely rock solid. Zero downtime, no instability, no surprises. You can't have it, right? These big institutions, they need it to be consistent always, right? And updates like this is what makes that possible, right? So while it might not move the price today, it directly supports everything that we've been talking about today, right? RLUSD expansion, institutional usage, long-term network trust. This is how serious systems are built. It tends to be built quietly, guys. So if we zoom in on XRP, let's zoom in on it and see what the price right now. It's holding around $1.32, right? $1.30, $1.32, and it's been holding in this really tight range for a while, right? And if you look at what's happening underneath, though, Whales are pulling supply off of exchanges. Network activity is expanding, right? Infrastructure is improving. Not getting worse, guys. It's improving, right? So the fundamentals haven't changed. If anything, the fundamentals are getting better, all right? That's for sure, right? And markets don't move based on headlines, okay, you guys? Like they move when positioning and conditions align, right? So it's on its way. Take this as a buying opportunity. You know, this looks more like accumulation than distribution. And if macro pressures ease, which eventually they will ease, it's just this is the kind of setup that can transition into a stronger move. It's not guaranteed. I get that. But structurally, I think it's there. I think it's there, and I think we could be on the brink of something big, right? When you pull everything together, you got large XRP outflows tightening, RLUSD expanding into the gold markets, real world capital deploying already happening right now, and steady infrastructure upgrades in the background. So individually, these don't look explosive, guys, but together, all together, like Brad Garlinghouse said, it's not going to be one flip of the switch. It's going to be 1,000 switches, and that's really what's going to set this thing off. We're seeing flip every single week, guys. Every single week we're seeing flip, right? And then one day, you know, XRP is going to be tinkling along, and then shazam, she's going to roll. In my opinion, she's going to roll, and it's going to be an explosive move. That's kind of how XRP works. It moves fast. It moves really, really fast when it goes, right? And I think this time it's going to move really fast, and yeah, it'll come down at some point, but it's going to stay pretty high. I think the price point is going to stay pretty high because of the use case, because it's actually being used, right? So I'm curious what you guys think is going to happen next for XRP. Please drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you want daily XRP updates like this, please hit subscribe, turn on the bell. I'm trying to post every single day. Of course, it's not financial advice. Always do your own research. And go ahead, if you haven't yet, go check out Exponential Group at exponentialgroup.co. The links are in the description. You know, if you need a digital asset holding company, we provide those at our firm to help you guys file so you can get your assets into a limited liability company. And please, if you haven't joined the Exponential Mastermind yet, I don't know what you're doing, but there's a lot of people in there that are in this space and learning together while we grow. So hey, you guys are awesome. I want you to stay positive, be blessed, and I'm going to catch you in the next one.